everyone, my name's EarthToLydia, and if you've ever stopped by my Twitch channel, you'll have heard me say that I'm a very boosted survivor main at least several times already. Having said that, believe it or not, I am actually somewhat competent when it comes to looping a killer for a bit, and one of the questions that I get asked most on my stream is how to loop. And if you've ever tried to explain that to someone, you've probably found it's not very easy to do in a couple of sentences. So today I'm going over the absolute basics of looping and going over the most common loops that you'll come across in the game. I do plan in future to get more in-depth with each individual map and teach you how to loop unique buildings or structures, but today's advice will be very generalized and you can apply it to most maps. In each trial you'll probably find at least a couple of the loops that I'm about to list, apart from a couple of the indoor maps like Léry's Memorial Institute and the Hawkins National Laboratory. But first of all, I'm going to go over some really basic rules that you should follow to make the most out of your chases. So first, and probably the most important thing that you should do when learning to loop, is check your surroundings. So if you're starting an action that's going to keep you in the same place for a little while, like working on a generator, cleansing a totem, or searching a chest, it's important to look around you and see where your nearest looping points are. This way you won't get caught off guard if the killer comes and finds you, and you can work out how to run from one loop onto the next one. The second thing to know is that if you know that you're going to get hit through a pallet, then it's better to just take the hit and not throw the pallet. I know it's very tempting and I still do this from time to time, but there are a very limited amount of pallets in every trial, so if you're gonna get hit regardless, there's no point in wasting a pallet when it can be used to save you or a teammate later on. Third, and also a very important point that most people will tell you, is to look behind you. It's not the easiest thing to do at first, but once you get used to the map layouts, it's important to see what moves the killer will try to make, and then you can attempt to counter it. Another bit of advice is please do not pallet camp. It's usually just going to waste a pallet that you could have bought more time at and potentially kill off that loop completely. You also want to try and stay as close to the wall that you're running around as possible. This will stop the killer from gaining on you as much as possible. And the final thing that we need to note is that if you didn't already know, a window vault will momentarily block off after it's been fast vaulted 3 times in a chase. So if you've already vaulted a window twice, it's probably best to think about the best way to move on to the next loop. Now for the actual loops. Gonna start really basic with LT walls. These are 2 back-to-back walls that each have a window vault, but the T wall has a little bit extra that you need to run around. When you run these correctly, these 2 walls can feed into each other nicely and waste a good amount of the killer's time. The best ways to run the windows are from the inside outwards. Once you vault the window, it's best to look at the killer and see what direction they're going to push you in. If they're rounding the wall with the window that you've just jumped through, then turn down the shorter side of the loop to either vault the same window again or move onto the other wall. If they're rounding the shorter wall, then run along the wall that you've just vaulted and move onto the other window. The next most common loop that you're going to see is referred to by many as a jungle gym, and there are 2 main variants of this type of loop. The rule when it comes to jungle gyms is whatever side that the pallet is on, the window will spawn on the opposite end. First variant has the window on the L-shaped wall. You can run the side of the loop pretty similarly to the L wall that we just mentioned earlier. Generally speaking, you want to run the wall that has the pallet on it and use the window to get away once the pallet's already been used. The other variant will see the window spawning on the long straight wall, but regardless of which side that the pallet spawns at, usually when you throw the pallet you want to have a nice run up to the wall that has the window on it. This way you can get the fast vault on the window, maybe loop this for a little bit before moving on to your next loop, and it can also slightly increase the distance between you and the killer. Another really common loop that you'll see is a pallet with a longer and a shorter wall on either side of it. There's not an awful lot of advice to give about this one, as you really do have to look at the killer's movement and respond to that. Try to loop the longer side of the loop for as long as possible until the killer catches up to you, then you can alternate onto the shorter side until you need to throw the pallet. Okay, the last one that I'm going to mention on this list is Z-walls. And for anyone that's got the slightest bit of experience in running, you'll know that you want to stay clear of these. Stick to the larger loops if you can. If you're absolutely desperate to waste a little time and have no better options, then just make sure that you give yourself a run up to the window. If you try and turn directly into the window, then you'll end up with a slower vault, which can be the difference between you getting hit or not. Alright, those are the absolute basics of looping. Obviously, the more that you practice, the more confident that you'll get, and the more uses you'll get from each loop. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to see advice on how to loop specific maps or buildings, then I'm more than happy to do that. Just let me know in the comments which maps you want to see that on. Until then, if you want to catch me elsewhere, my social medias are linked in the description, and if you like the video, please consider subscribing. It would really help me out a lot. See you next time, guys.
slick.